They told us Saturn would last forever, a planet wrapped in the most beautiful structure the solar system had ever created. A cosmic crown of ice and light that seemed eternal. But beauty, even on a planetary scale, can lie. Because today, scientists say something unthinkable is happening. Saturn's rings, the shimmering monument we've photographed, worshipped and mythologized for centuries, are disappearing. Not slowly, not gracefully, not in the gentle drift of cosmic time, but actively, right now, in our era. And the reason? Saturn is eating its own rings, pulling them inward, dissolving them into vapor, raining them down like ash into the clouds of the planet itself. A cosmic feast so strange, so unexpected, that when NASA confirmed it, scientists checked their instruments twice. The one thing in the sky everyone knew was stable wasn't. The rings we see today, the wide glowing disks that stretch hundreds of thousands of kilometers across space, may be one of the youngest, shortest-lived structures in the entire solar system. Not billions of years old, as textbooks once claimed, but possibly just 100 million. And now we're watching them disappear within our own cosmic blink. Imagine this. You look up at Saturn 100 million years from now, and the most iconic symbol of the planet is gone. A bare, striped giant. A world that once wore a crown, now stripped of it. This is the story of why Saturn is losing its rings, how we only discovered this recently, and the shocking truth it reveals about the history and future of every ringed world in the galaxy. Because if Saturn's rings can vanish, all rings can. And maybe they always do. For most of human history, Saturn's rings were a mystery born from blurry telescopes and imagination. Galileo first saw them in 1610, but to him they looked like ears, strange lumps attached to a glowing sphere. He didn't know he was witnessing something cosmic and temporary. It wasn't until Christian Huygens, decades later, that humanity finally understood. Saturn wasn't deformed, it was adorned. A planet wrapped in an impossibly thin, perfectly circular disk of ice. But where did this crown come from? For centuries, scientists argued. Some believed the rings were ancient, leftover material from the birth of the solar system. Others thought they were fragments of a moon shredded by Saturn's gravity, a cosmic execution still glittering in orbit. But the truth was far stranger, because in the early 2000s, data from the Cassini spacecraft began whispering something no one expected. Saturn's rings might be young, really young, not billions of years old, not from the dawn of the solar system, but perhaps only 100 to 200 million years old. If Earth's dinosaurs had telescopes, they would have seen Saturn wearing the exact same rings we see today. This challenged everything. If the rings were young, then something catastrophic must have happened relatively recently. A moon shattered by a violent collision, a rogue comet torn apart, a gravitational tug-of-war gone wrong. We weren't looking at primordial leftovers, we were looking at debris. Fresh debris. Cassini's instruments also found something else. The rings were too clean. Pure water ice, almost no dust, no signs of ancient weathering. In the universe, nothing stays pristine for billions of years, not even ice. This wasn't an ancient relic. This was a recent wound. But then Cassini measured something even more shocking. The speed at which material from the rings was falling into Saturn. And suddenly, the entire history of Saturn's rings collapsed into a new timeline. The timeline we now believe. The rings were born quickly, and they will die quickly. Saturn's crown is not eternal, it's fleeting. A temporary jewel in a universe that doesn't allow beauty to endure. And the moment Cassini sent back the first measurements of ring rain, the story of Saturn changed forever. We realized we weren't living beside a masterpiece carved in the early solar system. We were living beside a miracle. one caught in the final chapters of its life. For decades, Saturn's rings were treated as a stable, timeless landmark of the solar system. But then came the mission that changed everything, Cassini. A spacecraft that spent 13 years orbiting Saturn, diving through its moons, tracing the edges of its rings, drifting through shadows older than civilization itself. But it was Cassini's final act, its planned death, that revealed the truth no one saw coming. In 2017, Cassini began a series of death dives, plunging again and again between Saturn and its innermost ring. It was a corridor no spacecraft had ever entered, a razor-thin passage between a gas giant and a collapsing halo of ice. And in this dangerous gap, Cassini made the measurements that rewrote everything. What it discovered was staggering. The rings aren't orbiting Saturn peacefully, they're falling into it, in streams, in curtains of vaporized ice, in invisible waterfalls of electrically charged particles spiraling downward. NASA called it ring rain, and the rate wasn't gentle. It was violent. Cassini found the rings were losing between 400 and 1,000 kilograms every second. Every second. It meant something unthinkable. Saturn is erasing its own rings right now. And the math only made the truth more devastating. At this rate, Saturn's rings may be gone in 100 to 300 million years, a blink in cosmic time. But that wasn't the biggest shock. A second measurement suggested they might be even younger than we thought. Saturn's gravity field, measured during the final dives, behaved as if the rings weren't massive enough to be ancient. They didn't have the mass of a 4-billion-year-old structure. They had the mass of something new, something assembled not long ago. The story they told was unmistakable. The rings were created recently, and they are disappearing soon. Cassini revealed a universe where even the most iconic beauty is temporary, fleeting, already falling. In the end, the mission that spent 13 years studying Saturn died discovering Saturn's most painful truth. Its greatest masterpiece came late and will leave early. And we, by unimaginable luck, are alive at the only time in human history when Saturn still wears its crown. Cassini's final discovery didn't just rewrite Saturn. It rewrote the life cycle of every ring in the universe, because if Saturn's rings are temporary, then rings aren't cosmic monuments, they're cosmic events, brief, violent, beautiful, and doomed from the moment they're created. A ring system, we now understand, is the last breath of a world that no longer exists, the glittering remains of a moon torn apart, or a comet crushed by gravity, or a collision so catastrophic that its shadow lingers for millions of years. And that means every ring in the cosmos is a crime scene, a frozen obituary, a memorial written in ice. For Saturn, this realization changes everything. It means the planet we admire today, the icon, the giant, the crowned king of the solar system, is living through a rare chapter of its life. A chapter almost no advanced civilization will ever see. Imagine the alien astronomers of the future, millions of years from now, pointing telescopes toward our solar system and seeing only a bare gas giant, no crown, no shimmering halo, just clouds and stripes and storms. They will never know what Saturn once looked like. They will never know the beauty that once orbited here. Just as we will never know how many ancient ring systems have already come and gone, extinguished long before our species even existed. And maybe that is the haunting truth Saturn leaves us with. Beauty in the universe is not permanent. It's borrowed, it's fleeting, it's fragile. Even a planet, A world 95 times the mass of Earth cannot hold on to what it loves. Not forever. But maybe that's what makes it beautiful. Because right now, in this brief slice of cosmic time, we are alive in the era when Saturn wears its crown. We are alive at the exact moment the universe allowed something this fragile, this improbable, this breathtaking to exist. And someday, long after our civilizations vanish and our constellations fade, Saturn's last ring particles will fall into its clouds, and the universe will close the book on one of its most magnificent illusions. The rings will be gone, but the memory, the story, the impossibility of their existence at all will remain. So here is the question we leave you with. If even Saturn's rings can disappear, what else in the universe do we assume is eternal, that might be vanishing right now, without us noticing?